Welcome to today's Monday Morning Live. My name is Dennis Mboro. I'm excited to see you here today. Last week we took a break, but as always, we want to ensure that the content that we share here is not just normal, every day, ensuring that there's a post every week. We want to ensure that everything that we share on our platform is impactful, is transformational, and it helps you move. It helps you address the problems that you're facing at this point in your life, or even at future points in your life. And we ensure that our content is accessible. That is, it's here on Facebook, on my page. It's on YouTube, where you can get it forever, and even on LinkedIn. And we do advise also that you can follow us on all those platforms to get to learn more about subjects to do with personal branding, but most importantly, the things that prevent people from building personal brands, which is what we have been talking about over the last couple of weeks. Today, the subject is a bit heavy. I know that we are often told that the point or the objective of living our lives is ensuring that in future we have less problems. But when you look at people who are in the future or who have the lives that we desire, they have problems also. But the imagination that we have is that the people that are around us are suffering less than we are. And once we get to a certain level, then that means that our life is going to be devoid of suffering. But at the same time, we know that suffering is always going to be a present part of our lives. Today, we want to see, or to answer this question: what if the ego is a problem, and the problem is the way out? That's what we want to explore today, so that we can make meaning out of the sufferings that we go through. Everybody is going through something, whether they want to post it on social media or not. Stick through to the end as we break down these thoughts, so that at the end of it, you are going to look at your problems in a new way. You're going to look at your ego or your concept of yourself in a different way, so that you can be able to handle your challenges in a much more settled, calm way, as opposed to always having anxiety when you're going through something. This is a digital strategy and marketing channel where we help entrepreneurs with unique ideas, articulate them, and present them to the target market. So the subjects that we talk about are things that you have to overcome so that you can be able to start a business or go to the next level of your life. My name is Dennis Mboro. I'm the founder and lead consultant here. And also, I do train people, coaching, but I'm going to talk about that much later in the end of this video. What is the problem that you're facing right now that is causing you sleepless nights? And why is that problem causing you those sleepless nights? There is a guy, I'm forgetting his name, I'll definitely share in the comments, that was saying that most of the problems we face and the sufferings we experience is how we interpret the circumstances that we are going through, more than the circumstances themselves. This is the reason why it is possible for some people to go through challenges almost zen, like without a sense of knowing, without a sense of being able to decipher that they are going through challenge. And there are others, whenever they have a small problem, they find themselves having so much anxiety, and you notice that there is a difference in their countenance when they are going through that specific problem. So the difference between these people is not that some people are better at suffering than others, but majorly it is how they interpret things. Of course, the guys who tend to be zen say that things are the way they are, and these other guys have a sense of feeling as though they're supposed to be in control of everything. But the question is, Are we supposed to be in control of everything? And what about us confirms to us that that is supposed to be the case? The way the world has been structured, we are taught, educated, advanced, instructed, and somehow indoctrinated and cultured to believe that everything that happens to us is within our control. But if that is the case, why do so many unexpected things tend to happen in our lives? Why do we tend to encounter sicknesses that we did not plan for? Accidents can happen. So many things happen. Okay, even relationships sometimes break. So many things happen that are beyond our control. So when we have this thinking that everything is supposed to be within our control, what that does is that it makes us imagine that when something bad happens to us, then it is our fault. And if it is our fault, it puts us in a very defensive position where the goal now becomes ensuring that whatever we have experienced never happens again. This is what causes people, let me say, especially those who grew up in humble beginnings, to strive so hard to make so much in their lives so that nobody can ever look down upon them again. And the problem is, even if they receive that sense of respect, there is a sense of insecurity that comes when they feel as though they are not being acknowledged for what it is that they have achieved. But ultimately, they haven't really broken out of that imagination that people look down upon them based on what it is they have. The problem with that kind of thinking is, if they find themselves in a situation where their livelihood, their income, or their status is at risk, then it is an attack on their whole self, on their entire identity, on what they have built themselves so hard to protect, which now has become under threat. This could lead to depression, stress, anxiety, illness, and some people even end up losing their lives as a result of that. So in this case, somebody has become anxious because of something that was entirely, totally out of their control. There was nothing that they could be able to do it. And the reason why we tend to want things to be within our control is because of the ego, the concept that we have of ourselves, how we believe we are supposed to be treated, and the space that we believe we occupy in the world. So for people who are very proud, it makes them have a sense of self-importance. We like saying living with the spotlight effect. Who is the president of Namibia? So I'll ask that question right now. Who is the president of Namibia? Who is the person who is in charge of we are taking some robots to Mars. So who is doing that for us right now? Okay, probably you'll have to Google to find out if you are not in that space, but probably the person who is doing that, the person who is the president of Namibia or whichever other country in Africa, or the person who is in charge of the mission to Mars, may have a sense of self-importance, but they mean nothing to you. Similarly, you mean nothing to most people in this world. Regardless of your position, regardless of your status in society, in your family, in your community, in your village, you probably mean nothing to most people in this world. And if you are to go to another part of the world, even if you receive VIP protection, people will find it weird that you walk around with people, whereas nobody really acknowledges who you are. Now, that is becoming introduced to the fact that the ego, or what we spend so much time and effort protecting, in the grand scheme of things is totally pointless, it's totally useless. It's just a construct of our own imagination. When somebody dies, there's a big deal. Of course, we have lost life. We are sad. we are mourning, but the following week or even the following day, you're going to find people's lives have pretty much gone back to normal. If someone was working in a place, they have already advertised the position. If there was a certain role they were doing in society, somebody else is coming up to continue with that work. Mind you, even if this person was very, very important, that sense of being replaced has already started happening. So if it is somebody who had that very high level of importance and they come back and see that the world is continuing without them, it means that there is something that is broken when we are only looking at the world through the perspective of our own egos. Now, this ego is something that we have been raising from the time that we were kids. There is who we were told we were. There is a family that you are told you are from. There is a place that you are told you belong. And ultimately, that is something that you believed and you've been constructing yourself throughout your entire life. To be, to do, to believe. But then again, there are these things that happen to you that challenge that status quo, that challenge your identity, that challenge your ego. And this is what we are referring to as problems. These are sufferings. These are unexpected events that come and contend against the position that you currently are at, or the ego that you currently have. The problem with egocentric living or egocentric thinking is that it enables us only to address life from one perspective, one way of doing things. If, say, you are authoritative, dictatorial, take it all by yourself leader, hands-on leader, then that means that you have a hands-on approach to everything. But when your business grows or your organization grows and it gets to the state where you are not able to control, you have to be able to trust people, then you go through this challenge of learning how to delegate, learning how to trust people with your work or with your business. And if you don't do that, then the whole thing crumbles. So that is an illustration to show that sometimes the challenges that we experience that contend directly against our ego introduce us to a new person that is within us that we did not know in advance. Okay. The imagination that we can only live life based on who we believe we are makes us go through problems, because we'll encounter situations that will require us to act in a way that is not in accordance to who we think or who we believe we are. If we are able to do that, because that's something that you are able to do countless times, that means that there is a part of ourselves that exists outside the boundaries of what we otherwise call our ego. If we spend most of the time resisting the problems and defending our ego, the problem becomes worse, and ultimately we are not able to overcome those problems or challenges. But if we embrace the problems as they are and see what we are supposed to learn, what we are supposed to embrace, and bring out of ourselves to address the issue, then that means we are introduced to another person that is within us that is not confined by this ego. The question is, if we live our lives to only avoid problems, which we can never avoid, then that means that there is so much more within us that we don't have access to. And we can only access that by going through challenges that have to bring out that part of us. In that sense, the ego becomes the problem, and the problem becomes the way out of the bigger problem, which is the ego. The ego is the obstacle that has been preventing you from living life more fully and abundantly, because it has confined you to a certain prison. There are two ways of getting to exist or meet the person that you are beyond your ego. So the first thing is intentionally putting yourself in situations that require a different part of you to confront or address. If you are not a person who is proactive, put yourself in situations where you'll have to be proactive. If you are a person who is shy and relaxed, put yourself in a situation where you'll have to go and speak to people. That is going to help you when you find yourself in a situation or in a problem that will require you to express yourself to somebody else for you to address it, and not suffer because you are not able to speak to other people. If you are not a person who is able to speak up, put yourself in situations where you are going to need to speak up. Like sports. When you're playing a team sport, you must shout, "Give me the ball, give me the ball." You must shout, "I'm open, man on, danger." You must shout and you must speak up. So when you find yourself in a situation where you need to speak up, in real life, you're going to be able to speak up, even if that is not within the boundaries of your ego. Putting yourself intentionally in those kind of situations is going to give you great growth. And if problems come before you put yourself in those situations, seeing what you need to learn, being willing to forgo your ego and adopt a new part of yourself that you don't know, is going to ensure that A, you benefit maximally from that situation, and B, you don't experience suffering when you experience things like that again. So that is all about why the ego is a problem. And the ego is an obstacle, and the problems you face can be your way out. Let's go back again to the first question. What are you facing right now? How is it in conflict with your ego? What do you need to call out of yourself to address that problem? And what are you going to do to enable yourself to pretty much exist outside your ego so that you can live your life more fully and more abundantly? Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it has been useful and impactful in your life. I ask that if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. If you are at a state where you are thinking about a business concept, but you're not very sure how you are going to structure it so that you can start testing it or selling it, please go ahead and get in touch with us. And yeah, for any other, and yeah, essentially that's it. That's it from us today. Oh yes, and if you know somebody who needs to hear about how the ego is the obstacle and the problem can be the way out, recommend this video to them. It has been delightful hanging out with you. This is Dennis Mboro once again of DSM. Until next Monday, overcome every obstacle, address every challenge, live your life more fully and abundantly. And until next time, ciao.